Your doctor or pediatrician ever said that there is no downside to antibiotics? And did you know that over half of antibiotics prescribed in the US are unnecessary? The overuse and misuse of antibiotics not only leads to long-term consequences for each individual child, but it's actually a huge deal for so many families because this has been going on for decades and is leading to rampant antibiotic resistance, superbugs, fueling chronic illness, and so much more. Let's find out what's really going on here. As a parent, you've likely experienced the helplessness and the frustration of watching your child suffer through a painful ear infection or a persistent cough. In these moments, it's natural to want a quick solution, and antibiotics often seem like the answer. However, the alarming truth is that nearly 50% of antibiotics prescribed are unnecessary, according to the CDC. This rampant overuse of antibiotics not only contributes to the growing threat of antibiotic resistance, but also disrupts the delicate balance of your child's developing nervous system, setting the stage for long-term health consequences. This video is for the parent who wants to help their child grow up healthy and want to know more about the potential dangers of antibiotic overuse. If you've ever wondered about the long-term effects of so many antibiotics and want to know the potential dangers of overuse, this is the video for you. In this video, we're going to dive deep into the dangers of antibiotic overuse, exploring how it fits into the perfect storm of factors that can derail your child's neurological development. You're going to also learn all the gut-brain connections and how the nervous system, immune system, and inflammation are all linked together, and how the overuse and misuse of antibiotics can disrupt their delicate balance and contribute to everything from autism to ADHD to autoimmune conditions and even obesity. Did you know that ear infections are one of the most common reasons for pediatric medical visits in the United States, especially for young children, affecting as many as 85% of kids under the age of 3? So a long time ago, the American Academy of Pediatricians created a new guideline and recommendations for ear infections that recommends a wait-and-see approach rather than antibiotics as a first line of defense. Since most ear infections and respiratory infections are caused by underlying issues with subluxation, restrictions in movement, and drainage of the eustachian tubes and the lymphatics. And most ear infections are viral instead of bacterial, which makes them completely unresponsive to antibiotics. But how many conventional pediatricians, urgent cares, and emergency rooms follow this guideline still today? Sadly, it's still a major problem because when all you have is a hammer, everything starts to look like a nail. And way too many kids, especially infants and toddlers, are continuing to be prescribed antibiotics that have a whole host of both short and long-term side effects. So recently, I read the book Blind Spots by medical doctor Marty Makary. So he shares his experience of working in the hospital emergency room, taking care of a teenager named Chris. Now, Chris had suffered multiple bouts of extreme abdominal pain and was a frequent visitor to the hospital. His mom reported that no doctor had been able to figure out what was going on with her son. Every time this happened, doctors just called it irritable bowels, which the author shared is just medical speak for "we have no idea." Dr. Makary ran a bunch of tests on Chris, but they only revealed some inflammation in his intestines, which wasn't really helpful. But after taking a deeper look into Chris's medical records and his case history, it became clear that the cause of his suffering was a microbiome that had been assaulted by years of a poor diet and overuse and misuse of antibiotics. So the microbiome is one of the least understood organ systems in the body, and yet it is so essential to our health. The microbiome is composed of billions of different bacteria, fungi, and other organisms that typically live in our gut in a healthy balance. Now, throughout Chris's life, his microbiome had been repeatedly thrown out of whack. It started with him being born via C-section, which means that his sterile gut at birth may have been seeded with bacteria from the hospital rather than the immune-boosting bacteria from the mother's vaginal canal. Chris was also not breastfed, missing out on the shared antibodies and the shared bacteria that builds the microbiome. But the biggest assault on his gut, the dozens of antibiotics that he had taken through his childhood. Now, Dr. McCary didn't exactly share why he was prescribed so many antibiotics throughout his childhood, but we can make some educated guesses based on the information that was provided and using the many case histories that we review in our office. What we know is that children that are born via C-section or any other birth intervention have tremendous stress placed on the upper portion of the neck and the brainstem. When this happens, it often creates a perfect storm of symptoms. This usually starts with difficulties with draining and digestion. So we're talking ear infections, chronic colds, coughs, RSV, colic, reflux, and tummy troubles. And often antibiotics are prescribed recklessly for these conditions. Antibiotics kill some types of gut bacteria, and as a result, the microbiome is cleared of many of the helpful bacteria and throws off the natural balance, which leads to many health conditions. Now, the microbiome plays a crucial role in digestion, immune function, and overall health. This disruption, known as dysbiosis, has been linked to a range of health issues, including inflammatory bowel disease, allergies, asthma, obesity, autoimmune conditions, and neurodevelopment disorders. One of the studies that brought this information to the forefront was a study conducted by the Mayo Clinic. So researchers followed every child for an 11-year period that was born in Olmsted County in Minnesota, where the renowned hospital system is based. They compared the roughly 10,000 children who took an antibiotic in the first 2 years of life to approximately the 4,000 children who did not. The results are crazy. Children who take an antibiotic before the age of 2 have a 20% higher risk of obesity, a 21% higher risk of a learning disability, a 32% higher risk of ADHD, a 90% higher risk of asthma, and a 289% higher risk of celiac disease. And that was just in the short term. Once antibiotics disrupt the gut and microbiome function, it can lead to not only an imbalance of neurotransmitters like serotonin and dopamine, which are made and absorbed in the gut, but also with the most important nerve in the body, the vagus nerve. Now, the vagus nerve is in charge of the rest, relaxation, digestion, immune function, and regulation of inflammation, and so much more. It is literally the connection between the brain and the gut. So once antibiotics get in and disrupt gut function, it also negatively impacts what's called vagal nerve tone, which then lets the sympathetic fight or flight system run unchecked, leaving the body full of tension, inflammation, and a suppressed overall immune response. We know that the microbiome is largely formed by the time a child reaches age 3. The problem is that by age 3, the average American child has already taken about 4 courses of antibiotics. That's why it's so important for parents to know how to naturally support the body to overcome ear and respiratory infections without relying on antibiotics whenever possible. So here are a few things you can do to avoid unnecessary antibiotics. So the first, while parents work hard to keep their children healthy and prevent respiratory infections, the truth is that getting sick and spiking a fever is a natural part of life for all children. And believe it or not, it has long-term benefits by boosting and improving immune function throughout life. Second, if your child does get an ear infection, request that the doctor verifies if it's a bacterial infection or a viral infection. This is going to require that they look in the ears. So if you suspect an ear infection, telehealth calls may not be ideal. Now, the majority of ear infections are viral and do not respond to antibiotics. And third, before choosing a birthing location, ask about statistics relating to birth interventions. Birth interventions place significant tension on the upper portion of the neck and the brainstem, disrupting the vagus nerve, but also initiating the cascades of sicknesses correlated with birth interventions. In the case where a C-section is needed, antibiotics are routinely given to mothers just prior to the procedure, and their babies are then born with antibiotics in their system. A study of more than 55,000 women found that there is no difference in surgical infection rates when the antibiotics are given after the baby is born. And then lastly, the best way to help the body clear these infections is through chiropractic adjustments. Neurologically-Focused Chiropractic Care enhances the function of the nervous system, supporting overall immune function, reducing tension and inflammation, and enabling the body to fight off infections naturally. These adjustments can also help improve the motility and the drainage of the eustachian tube, sinuses, throat, and the entire lymphatic system, breaking up congestion and helping your child overcome colds, congestion, and infections way faster. When the nervous system is balanced and it's functioning at its absolute best, all other vital functions like the respiratory, lymphatic, and immune systems follow suit, allowing ear infections to become a thing of the past for so many kids and for so many families. And remember, there are also plenty of natural remedies that we love and recommend. Simply comment "guide" below and we'll send you our Nature's Medicine Cabinet PDF guide that covers all sorts of natural remedies and alternatives you can put in play for your family. So if you found this video helpful, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and share it with other parents looking for natural ways to support their child's health. Let's work together to boost our kids' immune systems naturally, avoid antibiotics, and help make chiropractic care and natural remedies the first line of defense for future generations.